there, my name is Kelly Dale, and this is your Must Know Monday for Monday, September 7th. Happy Labor Day! Today, I want to teach you how to use Noodle findings. They are a finding that people really love or they have no clue what to do with. So that's what I want to show you how to do today. I want to show you how to make a bracelet using two different types of noodle findings. This is a noodle. It is basically a curved tube. This one is a 38 by 2 millimeter. And then I have my beads laid out on how I want a bracelet to look using the 50 by 3 millimeter curved tube. As you can see, these come in 6-pack for $2, and then the smaller one comes 6-pack for 95 cents. So they're very cheap to work with, and they make a beautiful bracelet. So, to use noodles, the bracelet I'm going to be making today, I'm using the .018 49 strand beading wire. And I'm going to leave my wire attached to the spool so that I don't waste any of it. I'm just going to show you how to make a very simple bracelet using these noodles. So the first thing that I want to do, okay, sorry, that's one of my apps and I can't shut it up. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take and thread on one of my little 4 millimeter bicones. Then I'm going to take the noodle and I'm going to thread the noodle through. Now this is going to take up a good bit of your wire here. So I'm going to thread it through. Then thread on a 4 millimeter bicone. A 4 millimeter is just silver round bead. A 6 millimeter bicone. And then here I have 8 millimeter square dowels with an 8 millimeter size cube. These are Swarovski, but you can use kind of whatever you have. These bracelets are great because they are quick to make, and literally you can bang these out in all sorts of colors, and they take no time to make, and they are great for craft fairs because people think they're so pretty and they just love them, and you will sell a good bit of these. I'm going to thread on another noodle and then a 4 millimeter bicone. I'm going to go ahead and thread on my crimp tube and my wire protector. And I'm going to go ahead and put my lobster claw on this end and go ahead and finish off this end. Once I have this end finished off, then I can cut the wire off of my spool. This is a great way to thread bracelets because you don't waste wire. And as expensive as some wires can be, you definitely don't want to waste it. So again, on this end, I'll have my crimp tube, my wire protector, and if you don't know about crimp tubes and wire protectors and how to crimp off your pieces, then you may want to go back and watch, I believe it was one of my very first Must Know Monday videos. I taught you all about the different size crimps and how to crimp and all that good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to run the wire through the bicone, or the crimp tube and the bicone, and I'm going to pull that little short piece of wire. And I'm going to go ahead and clasp my bracelet. You want to make sure to clasp your bracelet before you finish the ends of these off, because if you don't, if these get too tight, then it's not going to lay right and it's not going to look right. So you definitely want to make sure to clasp it before you crimp it off. I'm going to go ahead and crimp. And then cut this little piece off right here. so now I have a very pretty, very quick and easy bracelet made with the noodles, and I've used very minimal beads, whereas, you know, normally we would have to put beads all the way around. So it's a really great way to use these noodles. Now I'm going to clean off my mat, and then I'm going to show you how I like to use the smaller noodles. Okay, so for this bracelet, like I said, I'm going to be using these shorter size noodles, and we're going to use 2 noodles on each side. To do this one, I'm dropping down to my .012 49 strand wire. So I have 2 pieces of wire cut and ready to go. You want to make sure that your ends are together as good as they can be. And I'm going to start by threading on 3, well actually, no, I'm going to go ahead and put my end on this end. So I'm going to go ahead and put my crimp over both wires. This time I can't use a wire protector because of the fact that I'm using both wires. Using this .012, I probably could, but I don't want to push it. So I'm going to go ahead and completely finish off this end. And it's mainly because I know how many beads it takes for my size wrist, which is a 7 to a 7 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off that end and then trim these little end pieces here. Alright. Get your ends together. I'm going to go ahead and clip these so that they're perfectly aligned the way I need them to be. First things first is I'm going to thread on 3 4mm rounds. Now for this bracelet, if you don't know how many beads, or like the first one that you make, don't put the end on first. You want to go ahead and put all your beads on and then just kind of gauge from there, put it around your wrist and gauge from there how many beads it's going to take for you. If you have a 7 to a 7 1/4 inch wrist, you can pretty much go by my bead measurements in this video because that's the size that I'm making. So I've got on 3 4mm silver rounds. Now I've got my needles together, my threads together. I'm threading on a 4mm Indicolite bicone, and this is over both wires. I'm going to thread on another 4mm silver round and a 4mm fuchsia bicone. Then I'm going to separate the wires. I'm going to thread 1 small tube onto one wire and 1 small tube onto the other wire. I'm going to put those wires back together, and I'm going to pull these beads all the way down. So when they're pressed down nice and tight, this is what it'll look like so far. Got my wires back together. Thread on 1 4mm olivine, 1 4mm silver round, 1 6mm fuchsia, 1 5mm rondelle, 6mm purple velvet, 5mm rondelle, 8mm indicolite, and all of these I'm doing over both wires. And then I've got my 5mm rondelle, my 6mm purple velvet, 5mm rondelle, 6mm fuchsia, 4mm silver round, 4mm olive, pull those down. Then I'm going to separate my wires again. Thread on 1 noodle on one side and 1 noodle on the other side. Got my wires back together. And I'm going to thread on the fuchsia, my silver round, and then the 4mm Indicolite, and then 3 more silver rounds. I'm going to go ahead and thread on my crimp tube. And then I'm going to make this bracelet have an extender on the end. So I have some silver chain. So I'm just going to go ahead and thread both pieces of wires through the very end loop. And then I'm going to come back down through the crimp tube. Extender chains can be as long as you want them to be, especially if you buy your chain by the foot. It's very, very easy to, well, what happened there? Okay, let me get my my end link closed really good and get this end put on real quick so I can show you how to do it. Now, just like the previous bracelet, you'll want to make sure and clasp the bracelet before you actually finish it off. And you want to pull really nice and tight so that when you pull, you don't really see any wire where they come apart here on each side, or where they meet on each side, those noodles. I'm going to go ahead and crimp this. Trim off those excess pieces of wire here. So now I've got a really pretty bracelet that fans out on each side when you wear it like this. But I want to make it a little fancy. I don't want to just have chain just here on the end. So I'm going to take an 8mm fuchsia bicone, and I'm going to make my loop. And again, if you don't know how to make a loop, go back to some of my previous Must Know Monday videos where I teach you all about loops. And I'm going to thread it onto this very end link piece of chain. And then wrap it. Now you can put as many beads on the very end here as you want, or you can put as few. It's completely up to you. I like to put one like 8mm bead on there and then just be done with it. So that now, once I'm finished with the bracelet, this is what the bracelet looks like. So you can see, you can either wear one with the big noodles like I have on here, or you can do something, and this is great for people who are very petite and have very thin wrists, because you can, and now you can just use one noodle here. You don't have to use the 2 noodles. I just think it just adds a little something to the smaller noodle bracelet. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to use noodles to make a very simple bracelet. We do have both sizes of noodles for sale on our website, which can be found at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Be sure to come back next week when, or actually be sure to come back Thursday to see our newest project, our full-length project, and then come back next Tuesday for another great beading lesson. Hope you guys have a wonderful week.